Hello and welcome to the Red Couch Podcast. I am your host, Ben Harrietha. Summer is rapidly approaching, although if you looked at the weather outside and the temperature, you probably wouldn't know it. So this week on the podcast, we have our resident summer expert, as I am calling her, Zoë Alexandra King, to help us plan for the lovely weather. Zoe, welcome.
Wow, I love that introduction, and thank you so much for having me on the podcast today, Ben. I am so excited to kind of chat with you about what students can get up to this summer.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be super sick. Because at the time of recording this, yesterday was orientation, and all I talked about was the Navigator because people were so interested in the Navigator because during the summer semesters, mostly the students who go to PHR are international students. So I was like, here, get this, pick up the Navigator, check out the stuff in there. I'm like, there's some really cool restaurants in there, So yeah, super stoked to have a chance to actually go a little bit more in depth about what students can check out in London this summer, and also a little bit about you because you've never been on the podcast before.
Oh, that's nice. I'm excited to talk about myself. I love to talk about myself.
It's the most fun thing ever. So why don't you go ahead? Tell us about yourself.
Well, before I get into all the details about my very interesting life, just kidding. A little bit about the Navigator. It has so many different articles that the Interrobang writers would have put in about just things in general that you guys can do in the summer. So like you were saying, Ben, for internationals, but even for domestic students as well, people who are from London. I've run into so many domestic students who have been I've lived here for my entire life, or I've lived in Canada and I've never heard of this place before. So it really, the whole point of the Navigator is to really bring these places to life and make sure that students get the college experience and can really take full advantage of London, especially in the summertime.
Totally. Yeah. I like you're exactly right. Cause I've been living in London. Oh God. It'll be 4 years this September. And I'm still finding new stuff every day. Especially now that I live downtown and I walk around a lot. It's I'll walk by someplace and I'll be like, oh, I should go check that out, So yeah, the Navigator is a really great, I feel like it's a really great jumping off point.
Yeah, especially because so many students, you said you're now downtown and stuff, but a lot of students tend to rent downtown. So they're almost confined to that Richmond Street, and even Fanshawe students being on that Oxford Street as well. They don't really get to see the hidden gems that London really has to offer. And when you actually take a look at it, London's it is quite big. It's no Toronto or anything, but it is quite a big space that has so much for students to explore. So if you feel like you've seen everything, students out there, I guarantee you that you have not.
Yeah. All right. And with that introduction of the Navigator, Zoe, give us a little introduction of yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Zoë Alexandra King, like Ben said, and I work for the Publications Office at the Fanshawe Student Union, and I'm very happy to say that I wear quite a few hats there. I was brought on as the Junior Advertising Representative, so basically that role consists of making sure that there is sponsorship for all of our products, so we've been talking about the Navigator magazine. That is one of our products that one of my roles as the advertising rep is to make sure that we have companies sponsoring us. And then a little bit later on, after assuming that role, I actually started working for the Interrobang as well and writing some articles, which gave me a chance to really explore London even more. And Ben has actually told me that he's read some of my articles about my recent features at the Grand, which is a theatre downtown, and that was, so far this season has just concluded, and can I just say I'm so excited for the new season to start in September, because being able to review and preview plays and productions at the Grand has been so amazing. But that's a little bit about my work life at the FSU, and I'm actually doing my co-op there this summer as well, where I'm going to be taking on a bit more of a bigger role in the biz booth, which is where students can purchase tickets for hockey games and stuff like that. Like there's like an arcade, not an arcade section. What am I saying? I think there's like a room that always like
games room or whatever with like pool and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, with the pool table. So getting my hands involved in that a little bit more to further pursue my studies, because I am still a student at Fanshawe. So very, very busy life I have, but I love working for the FSU and being able to do things like this and chat with one of my colleagues on a podcast on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. What's not to love, you know? So you mentioned the place up, and we're gonna talk about that later. I want to talk more about that because your play reviews have been awesome. They've been really, really cool. So you're from Barbados, correct?
Yeah, I am from Barbados.
Could you tell me a little bit about where you're from?
So Barbados is very small, and I know I was talking about how London can be considered small, but Barbados is smaller. Barbados is a Caribbean island. It's near Trinidad and Tobago. Do you know Trinidad?
I'm familiar with it. I don't know the exact area, but I know of Trinidad.
Yeah, so like it's just along the island chains. It's 166 square miles. Fun fact, it's very small.
Wow.
Then it's tourist destination. It's a paradise spot, and I am very excited that I'm going back there next week, Wednesday, for a short vacation. I'm going for 10 days to see my family and surprise some of my friends. But honestly, if anyone listening or even you, Ben, get a chance to visit Barbados, like I would say to do it. It's a pretty amazing place to visit and to live. The only reason why I chose to move to Canada is because it's more experience for me in like a more developed country, because Barbados is an island. It's quite on that laid back lifestyle. Everyone's on island time. So I did want to have the experience of a bit more hustle and bustle and more city life. So, but that's kind of the extent. Barbados has beaches, beautiful beaches, bars if you're of age, lots of fun to go drinking at the bars. The drinking age, I believe, is 18. It used to be 16, and I think it just changed a few years ago. And of course, beautiful Rihanna is from Barbados, so we are always very proud to tell people where we are from, because they tend to relate Barbados and Rihanna all the time. So that's always a lovely feature when I tell anyone I'm from Barbados.
Yeah. No, I remember you writing the right after the Super Bowl halftime show, the article about Rihanna and Barbados, and it was like a super cool article because you could just tell that you were like super excited that you like, it was basically just an article gushing about how cool it was. That so
Yeah.
And I love it. It's great, right? So what program are you taking at Fanshawe right now?
So I'm getting my degree in business management. So it's a 4-year program, and I just finished my 3rd year. So in September I will be entering my 4th year, my final year. And I had mentioned I'm doing my co-op with the FSU this summer, but my co-op schedule is actually for January to April. So hopefully I'll be doing a second co-op with the FSU at that time. And then my last semester of school will be next year, September to December. So I say that I'm almost done, but a lot of people still tell me that that's a lot more to go.
That final year is always it's a weird one, right?
Such a weird one. It's so weird.
Well, especially, yeah, I was only in a 2-year program. I did 3 years of college, because I did 1 year of computer science and then 2 years of journalism. But the 4-year program, it's such a long time to be doing something. And like, and you get to that last year and you're just like, oh, wow, I'm like actually almost done.
Mm-hmm.
The weirdest part is going to be when you graduate. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's like, because for me, it was like, um, I didn't think that it was like real. Like I thought like it almost felt like I was on just like a vacation for a bit from school. And then when it really set in was like the September after I graduated.
Hmm.
When it was
So
like,
did you like do work or anything after you had graduated?
I took like 2 weeks off after I graduated just because I was like, I just want to, I want to go home back to Windsor. I want to see some family. And then like I just wanted to like, relax, chill. It was May when I graduated, and so it was like mid-May, and the weather was getting like really nice. So I was like, I just want to go around, do some stuff in London while the weather's nice and I have time. And then I actually started working at I started just working at like a Home Depot right after I graduated, which was hilarious. At graduation, everyone was talking about how they're all going to like, my one friend has a job at CBC, my other friend got a job at Global, all this stuff. And they're like, oh, where you going, Ben? And I'm like, Home Depot. But I only worked there for 2 months because I got hired at the Interrobang in August.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm literally like everyone, I feel like, whilst you were saying that, I know so many people who have similar journeys where they're kind of like that after graduation kind of run period of what next. So I feel like you're definitely not alone in that at all.
No, definitely not. And I don't even think it's like necessarily like a bad thing to not go into your career that you studied for immediately because of just how the job market is right now for most careers. Like, so I knew for a fact that I probably wasn't going to land a really good journalism job right after college. So I was like, yeah, I just need a job that I can like work like 40 hours a week and just basically so I can like feed myself and pay rent.
Yeah, and keep busy as well, I'm sure.
Oh my God, yeah. It's my partner just moved home and he currently he's taking like a couple weeks off, but he's already starting to be like, man, I'm so bored. I'm like, it's been 3 days.
Yeah, well, hopefully, like, I think next week it's supposed to be a bit of warmer weather. So right now, like you were saying, it's all gloomy outside, but next week it will be warmer and hopefully you'll have more fun, like being able to just be outside and won't be as bored,
God, that's the hope. That's the hope. Like you said earlier, you are the junior ad rep in the publications office. So you don't work for Interrobang explicitly, but you do a lot of writing for us.
Yeah.
So how did you originally get into writing for the Interrobang? Did Hannah ask you, or did you ask Hannah, or like how did that end up come to fruition?
Well, this is actually a really interesting fact. So when I was in Barbados, before I had moved here, before I was brought on as the junior advertising rep, I believe that I had applied for an Interrobang journalism position. This part is a bit blurry because at the time I was kind of applying everywhere. But I do remember John was like, no, I saw, like, John is our boss, and he was like, I saw your application in for journalism. And last year there was a time where I wanted to pursue that a bit more when I was brought in for junior ad rep. So I actually spoke to John about it first, and he was like, yeah, let's get you into writing. You can kind of do it on the side of your ad position. And he knew how much I'm a busy bee. So whenever I was kind of stagnant, he was like, if you want to write in this time, you can. So that's kind of how that was brought into place. And he then spoke to Hannah, and then me and Hannah started doing meetings together, and she would bring me into the morning meetings. This was during the summer last year. So that's kind of how it began. I wanted to fill up my time a bit more, and I did show an interest in writing. And on top of that, I just felt like, I don't know, there's always a little voice that I wanted to take out of my mind and put out there. And I just felt like Interrobang was the perfect way to begin that, if that makes sense.
Perfect. Yeah. No, that's a very, I think you're right. Every time you're in the office, you're always like, you're always doing something.
I always like to do like
Yeah,
if I'm not working, I'm like, I need to do something.
man, I am like the complete opposite. I live for the moments of just like, I just sometimes will sit at my desk and be like, cool, I got like 15 minutes to just kind of do nothing for a bit, you know? Like,
Oh, that's nice.
well, it's sometimes it's just,
I wish that I would value that time, like how you're saying you do that. Like you'll be like, oh, like I have to just kind of sit back. But
yeah.
I feel like for me, and I wish that I need to get better at it, like how you're saying you do.
Sometimes, yeah, it's so much of journalism and being a reporter is kind of just waiting, which can be a little annoying. But I've grown to really appreciate the kind of in between periods between like while waiting for someone to get back to me on a story or something. And you know and usually during these in between periods, I'm always like trying to like think of new ideas and stuff. Because yeah, like I don't know, stories for me, at least for me personally, like I can usually write stories pretty quickly, depending on the content. I find opinion pieces really hard to write in like a short amount of time.
I feel like I'm the complete opposite.
Really? See when it's like when it's like when it's like a news story, it's so easy for me to just be like, here's the facts, get it out, done, you know? News and culture, that's like easy money for me. But for some reason, opinion, it's like it's really difficult for me. Which that's because I love
like the different sides of journalism and like how the way that they write can be so like their preferences can be so drastically different. Like I love hearing like that you're like with the news features, I was just like facts and then it's like done. And then like on my perspective of that, it's like I'm always scared that I don't know, that maybe I'm interpreting something wrong but then I'm still like very new to journalism, so maybe that's why. And like I don't know, maybe you're more confident about getting the facts and putting it out there. But I'm like the complete opposite.
I think the quickest I've written a story was there was one day where I had an interview with someone and the interview went like super well, and for some reason that just like gave me this burst of like inspiration and energy, and I wrote like a 650 page not page, Jesus.
Oh my God.
650 word story in like 40 minutes.
No way.
Yeah. It was basically I just started typing and didn't stop typing until the story was done. And then I did like an editing pass. It took me all together like an hour to get it out.
Like the entire writing and editing, it took you an hour?
Yeah, about that.
Oh my gosh, it takes me like 2 hours.
Whereas like writing something like the album reviews I would do, it would take me a long time to write those. It takes me like 2-3 days to write those.
Those are always so interesting to read though, but yeah, I could see that like maybe it would be a bit more difficult to find the words to really describe how the music makes you feel, or like what message you're trying to get across.
Yeah, it's really difficult to make it interesting. First off, that's the biggest thing, is I think just making it interesting. And then also just like, there's only so many ways you can say something is good, you know, before it starts to get kind of old.
Yeah.
So I tried to, with later reviews, I tried to start like talking a little bit more about the background of the album and like kind of the themes and stuff of the album, because I thought that was more interesting to touch on than just being like, the music is good. You know?
Yeah.
And so But yeah, it did. And plus, with doing music reviews, it's like I usually listen to the album at least like 2-3 times before I even start writing. And I'm taking notes while I'm listening, and noting stuff I like, noting some songs I like, and then I'll go read what other people have been saying about it, as well. Both like I like to look at, because I usually talk about a lot of older albums. I like to look at contemporary reviews, so like current reviews and stuff, and then reviews from the time, like because certain albums have, when they came out, they weren't regarded very highly, but then now have been seen as like a cult classic, right? But then it's the opposite for certain other albums, where they used to be seen as really, really good, and now they're seen as not good. So I like to see what people are saying about the album, both when it came out and now. And it's a lot of work, and writing a review is really hard, and condensing it is the other thing.
I remember when you were doing that Interrobang rewind for all of the staff, like you were taking all of the employees' songs that they had liked from back in the day. And I remember when I had done my section for you, that like one of the things that because I again struggled, like how you're saying, like how do I describe this song? But I just kind of pulled from like the emotions behind like why I liked that song. And I don't know if that was interesting for people to read or not. Like, what did you think? Like, when you read that?
Oh, I liked it, and I thought it was a really cool pick. Also, I remember what it was. It was Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. I think it was their debut album. And you said your favorite song off of it, I believe, was Face Down, which is a good tune. That's a great song.
It was Face Down. Yeah, I love that song to this day. And just to repeat what I had in that article for Ben, I was saying that my older sister is almost 10 years older than me. And she would always be playing that song like in her teenage years, and it just like the nostalgia of hearing that song religiously every time I hear that song, it just like transports me back to when I was like 9 years old, seeing like my older sister putting on her makeup, listening to like, would you even say that that's like heavy, like rock, like so like
it's kind of, oh man, it's like alt rock going kind of into a little bit of like punk, post-punk a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's a good song. That band has a lot of actually pretty good stuff. Because the Face Down was their really big hit. And they never really had another really big hit after that. But they're a really interesting band. I like to I know a lot of stuff about random bands because I watch a lot of like music YouTube, like music review YouTube stuff, and they're actually a Christian band.
No way.
Yeah, they're a Christian band.
Like kind of makes like there's one song, I was gonna say that kind of makes sense because there's one song that's called Your Guardian Angel. That's also a really good song. But I guess like kind of relates to like religion in a way, and like Christianity, like calling like your guardian angel. But at the same time, there's so many songs that other artists write that have like religious names who the artists themselves aren't religious at all. So it's so interesting that you're saying that they're a Christian band, because I would never have thought.
Yeah, they're a Christian band in the way that like Paramore is a Christian band, where they're all like super where the music itself is not super like devout Christian stuff. But they are all like devout Christians. So just it's a very, very little fun fact. Yeah. So I wanted to ask, we were talking about we talked about the play reviews earlier. How's it been writing those?
Honestly, so much fun, just because I've always wanted to be able to go to the Grand and kind of experience the play experience and see what it's all about. I used to watch a lot of plays in Barbados. But like you were saying with the music, it was at first a little bit challenging to describe productions, especially if they were productions that weren't necessarily ones that I would have chosen to go to, if that makes sense. So there, like, most of the time, maybe I'm contradicting myself a bit in saying that, but I do choose the plays that I go to review. But there's always going to be times where you think that a play is going to be one thing and then it turns out to be another. And so being able to write accurately about how the production made you feel can indeed take me like 2 to 3 days, like you were saying, because it's really about making sure that you can get to the audience how it made you feel. And for example, there was one play in specific, or one production in specific. It was called Fall on Your Knees by Marie McDonald. And I rave about that production to this day. I went to the last production of the season a few weeks ago, and when I was sitting down, I was wishing that I was watching Fall on Your Knees, the name of the production. I was wishing I was watching that again. And that production was broken up into 2 parts. And I believe it was 3 hours each part. It was a 6-hour production, and I fell in love with that production. It was so amazing. It inspired me to read the book, which I haven't done yet, but I definitely will do over in the summer. But there was just so many things that happened that you would not have expected. And I think one of the hardest things about writing a review on something like that was trying not to give away too much, because you don't want to be a spoiler, like you want to encourage people to go and like watch it if they have the opportunity, maybe in another city, or if it comes back around, or read the book. But you don't want to tell them what happens, because I think that's what made it the most exciting for me. Kind of going in, the cover picture was of a girl and a guy, and it looked like it was just like a romance kind of production, and Romeo and Juliet was so much more than just boy meets girl, so
Yeah.
I would have wanted to give that away in my article, but still keep the audience captivating, and that was a bit challenging. But overall, like, being able to write for the Grand or for any theater has been so much fun, and I'm so excited to continue doing that. Like I said, they're closed for this season until September, but there's other places that are so big on theater, like Stratford. They have their film festival in the summer, and I am really hoping that I will be able to go and review one of those. There's one in specific called Wedding Band, and again, it kind of gives you the Fall on Your Knees vibe. So I'm hoping to be as satisfied or even more satisfied if I get to go and watch that and review it.
I've been to Stratford for one of their plays before back in high school, because we always used to, the drama team would always put on trips to go to Stratford, and anyone in the school could go, and my partner at the time was big into drama, so I went, and they did a production of To Kill a Mockingbird, which is one of my favorite books, one of my favorite movies.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. It was amazing. So yeah, if you get the chance to go do some stuff at Stratford, oh man, it'll be awesome. And Stratford's such a gorgeous city, also.
Yeah, and it's like not too far away from London as well.
No, I think it's only like an hour at most. So
yeah, even a little bit under an hour, because I have a friend who she literally commutes for school. Like, she drives from Stratford like every day.
Big drive.
To come to school, so it's not too far.
All right. So I got one more question before we get on to our lightning round questions, as we do. So one of your recent articles was on summer getaways. What's your dream summer getaway? And kind of an addendum to the question, does being from Barbados, kind of a warmer tropical island almost in a way, impact that choice? Because I know for me, being from Canada, if someone was like, hey, we're going on vacation to like uh, actually, I was gonna say the Swiss Alps, but that'd be pretty nice. But like going someplace cold, I'd be like, no, I'm okay. I'd rather go someplace warm.
Okay, well, for your first question, I actually love this question. But the first question, my dream vacation, I actually think that I'm going on my dream vacation this year. I love traveling, so narrowing down a dream vacation is kind of difficult, but I am going to Italy for my 23rd birthday with my best friend, and there is a possibility that I might be going to Switzerland right after, so that would be quite an amazing holiday and a very fun way to spend my 23rd birthday. But in saying that, there are still other places that would be quite dreamy, like going to Greece or Italy on a whole is so big. Like I'm going to one area called um Genova, and there's little towns in Genova like Cinque Terre. Don't think I'm saying that right. And just like different Italian named small towns. But there's the Amalfi Coast. So saying a dreamy country or a dreamy destination place is quite difficult, but definitely this summer I am expecting to feel like I am in a dream when I visit Italy. And then your question about whether or not being from Barbados impacts maybe my choice on vacations or the way that I view them. It doesn't. I love the heat, but I also love the cold weather. That's why I'm in Canada. So I don't know, like I like to see different places that are warm weather, but maybe a different vibe than Barbados. Um, Barbados is very tropical, very island time, but being in somewhere like Italy has a bit more historical architecture and tourist spots for me to explore that maybe Barbados doesn't have as much of. So there's different, like you were saying, seeing the Alps, that's like a different vibe to maybe Ontario. So it's kind of the same in that sense of, yeah, it's the same climate, but there's still so much other things for me to see.
Yeah, really good answer. That's a good answer.
It was a long day, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm excited. That's gonna be a really cool trip. To go see Italy and Switzerland. I want to go over and see a lot of Europe at some point. But my big trip I'm planning right now is I want to do a road trip down through the States.
Oh,
I want to go from the East Coast to the West Coast.
so would that be, I'm like really bad at geography. Is the East Coast like Banff?
No, it would be. Oh, I did it wrong. So we're closer to the East Coast. We're kind of like we're like New York area, kind of, that's East Coast. And then I want to go down to the West Coast, which would be, I'd be basically driving diagonally across America down to Nevada, California area.
Oh my gosh, that would be so cool.
Yeah. And I have people be like, why not just fly there if you're just gonna like, go there? It's like, no, I want to drive through the States and see everything in there, because I think it'd be really cool. It's like a 45-hour drive or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah. All right. Lightning round questions. So basically I'm going to ask some questions, answer them as quick as possible. Just first thing that comes to your head, answer. And yeah. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Favorite food?
Curry chicken.
Sweet, savory, or salty?
Salty.
New music you're listening to right now?
I don't know. Oh God. New music. Oh, that song from Sophia Richie's wedding. I don't know the name of it, but if you know, you know.
Do you dance?
Yes.
Mountains or beaches?
Beaches.
Do you cook?
Yes.
What's your favorite thing to make?
Curry chicken.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
$1,000. What are you buying?
Oh, a trip.
Nice. What's the silliest thing you've owned?
The silliest thing I've owned? I don't know. Maybe a toy for my cat.
And finally, what's your favorite story that you've written for the Interrobang?
Oh, my favorite story. There's a lot of them, but just on the spot, probably the one about COVID-19 and mental health, basically just what it's like to come back after living through a pandemic and seeing the different effects that it can have on people and how it can affect people so differently. That one was probably one of my favorite ones.
That one was a really good one. I remember that one.
But I actually am working on one that I think might be my favorite, and it is about multicultural dating and like dating interculturally. That one will be very interesting.
I'm excited to see it. All right, perfect. Well, that's all I had. So thank you for coming on the podcast, Zoe. Really appreciate it.
I feel like we didn't get to talk too much about the summer festivities in London, but maybe next time.
It is what it is. It was a good enough podcast anyway.
We just had so much things to talk about that we got.
Oh, yeah. And thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Red Couch Podcast. As always, you can catch up with every episode on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. Pick up your copy of The Navigator on newsstands now. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And be sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep up with all things Fanshawe. For the Interrobang, I'm Ben Harrietha.